The Classic TV channel is your happy trails to golden oldies television from the 1940s through the formative years of the 1950s and 60s. Enjoy restored TV shows Mickey Rooney Show, Groucho Marx, Trouble with Father, Terry and the Pirates, One Step Beyond, Beverly Hillbillies, Bonanza, The Lucy Show, Dick Van Dyke, Annie Oakley, Ozzie and Harriet, The Howdy Doody Show, and many, many more. Binge your night away. So return with us now to those golden days of yesteryear.
A public defender is an attorney employed by the community and responsible for giving legal aid without cost to any person who seeks it and is financially unable to employ private counsel. It is his duty to defend those accused of crime until the issue is decided in a court of law. The first public defender's office in the United States was opened in January 1913. Over the years, other offices were opened. And today, that handful has grown to a network of lawyers cooperating to protect the rights of our clients. I wonder how many times you and I have said after glancing at the headlines, too bad. I feel sorry for the man, but it could never happen to me. That's what Carl Hopkins would have said. He was an average man with an average outlook. He lived a narrow existence in a deep rut. Carl never had much to say.
Smells like rain. Hope Roberta got the wash in. I'm home, honey. I was right. Did you get the wash in? Paper says it's gonna rain. Ah, those bombs. Lost another one. Roberta, where are you? Guess she's mad about this morning. Giving me the silent treatment. A husband and wife are entitled to an argument once in a while. Maybe she's getting the wash. Roberta, you out there? Ah, women. Always getting their feelings in an uproar over nothing. Burnt. Now we'll have to eat out. If there's anything I hate, it's to eat out. The prices they get nowadays. Maybe she's putting on her face. I guess I never will understand women. Baby, I'm sorry about what happened this morning. Roberta. They'll think I did it. They'll think I shot her. I gotta get out of here. They'll say I did it. I didn't do it. I gotta get away.
Put it on the table. Drop it. Yours?
I wasn't here. I didn't shoot her.
Front door locked?
I don't know. You gotta believe me.
Inside, inside. Sit down there.
Thanks. That him?
Yeah.
Did you find anything?
He had this gun on him. Take a look in there. I'll stay with him.
Can we come in now? I told the other policeman Henry was just getting over a cold and that he shouldn't be out in the night
I'm sorry,
air.
but you'll have to wait outside. Regulations.
Well, I don't see what harm it'll do. After all, you wouldn't even be here if I hadn't heard the shots and called you.
We appreciate your cooperation.
Knew right away what had happened. Been expecting it for months. She is dead.
I suggest you wait at home. We'll call you when we need more information. Mrs.
The name's Bell. Myrtis Bell with an E.
Yes, Mrs. Bell.
Look at him sitting over there blubbering. And after what he's done. What's he got to be crying for?
I don't know. How would you feel if you just shot your husband?
Yeah, of course, put him on. Yes, Harris? They did, huh? No other prints? Good. Send one of your boys over with the report. You know who that was, Mr. Hopkins? Lieutenant Harris, head of the police crime lab. You know what he told me? That your wife died from 2 bullet wounds received from your gun, and that on the gun there were 2 sets of fingerprints, yours and your wife's.
I don't know. Maybe she shot herself.
Really? Which hand does he claim he found the gun in?
He said it was the left hand.
Check your notes.
Yes, sir. Yes, I have it. Mr. Martin, what did you see when you entered the bedroom? Mr. Hopkins, Roberta was lying across the bed, face down. I thought she was crying. I went over to the bed. She didn't move. I rolled her over. There was a gun in her left hand.
That's enough.
I thought...
That's enough. You see, Mr. Hopkins, her left hand. Your own words, right?
I guess so.
Will you then tell me how it was possible for her to shoot herself in the right side, under the ribs, holding the gun in the left hand, and have the bullets travel upward through the lungs and the heart and stop in the left shoulder?
I don't know. Why should I shoot her?
Mr. Hopkins, when you're arraigned in Superior Court, do you know what you'll be charged with? Murder in the 1st degree. And you know what your sentence will be when found guilty? Death, Mr. Hopkins.
But you can't.
On the other hand, if you will admit your guilt and throw yourself on the mercy of the court, I will make a recommendation for leniency. At the very worst, your sentence would then be life imprisonment.
But how can I say I did it when I didn't?
By avoiding a long and involved trial, the state will be spared untold expenses. Now, this could all act in your favor.
I don't understand. What do you want me to say?
Just tell us how and why you shot your wife. It's as simple as that. What is it? Well, tell him the district attorney is out of town and I don't want to... What? Whose client?
My client, Mr. Martin. Oh, I'm sorry to break in on your meeting.
Since when is he your client?
Well, Judge Nunley's clerk phoned me to be at the preliminary tomorrow. Now, you know as well as I do that this man can't afford an attorney. And what difference will one day make?
You're a lawyer?
Yes, sir. I'm Bart Matthews.
Well, I haven't got any money. I couldn't pay you.
You don't have to. The city supports the public defender's office.
Public defender? I never heard of that.
Well, your boss had. He's the one who phoned Judge Nunley.
All right, Matthews, if you're through, you can leave. I'd like to get a statement from this man.
Statement? What statement?
He said if I'd tell him I shot Roberta, he'd get me off with life.
All I'm trying to get from him is why he did it.
But I can't do that. I'd be lying.
Martin, when is the DA due back?
He didn't tell me.
Now, this means that you'll handle the case?
That's right.
And this will be your first important case since your appointment, won't it?
What are you driving at?
Oh, nothing. Except that I'll try to make things as easy for you as I possibly can.
Easy?
Yes, so that you can have your statement, Martin. Quote, not guilty, unquote. Come on, Mr. Hopkins.
Now, see here, Matthews.
As his attorney, that's all I want him to say. You know, Hopkins, I don't think I can put up your bail, but I'm quite sure that I can get the chief jailer to hang a do not disturb sign on your cell. All right, let's go.
Now I ask you, how can I see who's coming and going and serve up supper at the same time? This'll look right nice on Angie, don't you think?
Oh, yes, very. Now, Mrs. Bell, what makes you think that Hopkins was home that night?
Roberta told me once, she told me 100 times. Every night, home at 6. You could set a clock by him.
But why would he want to kill her?
Why would any husband want to kill his wife?
Henry, smoke your cigarette. I'll answer the questions. I'll tell you why. It was fight, fight, fight every waking hour of the day. Never surprised me none when it happened.
Now, Mr. Hopkins said that he gave her everything that he earned.
Well, she sure never spent her money on clothes. Never saw a woman dressed so poor. Oh, I'll get it. It's probably the newspapers again. Henry, get the man a glass of cider. It's good and fresh. You'll like it.
Well, would you, Mr. Matthews?
No, thanks. I'll have to be going.
Say, maybe you want to talk to Grandpa before you leave.
Grandpa?
Mrs. Bell's father. He's in the back bedroom, and kind of an invalid.
I think that would be a very good idea.
Forget the cider, Henry. Mr. Matthews is leaving.
But I haven't finished my...
You're finished as far as we're concerned. Here's the door.
I'm sorry if I said anything.
You're working for the defense, ain't you?
That's right.
Well, we're working for the prosecution.
Was that Mr. Martin who called?
That much I'll tell you, yes. And he said... Henry, you listen to this. And he said we wasn't to talk to nobody connected with the defense.
But I only wanted to talk to your father for a minute.
Grandpa? He couldn't help you none.
Why not?
But he ain't seen anything for 20 years. He's blind.
Why? Conrad Martin had started his counterattack. Everywhere in the neighborhood, I got the same answer. No statement for the defense. My last stop was the Hopkins house. Oh, hello, Davis. What are you doing here?
Captain assigned me here.
Hopkins gave me his key. I'd like to take a look around.
I'm sorry, Mr. Matthews, but I can't let you in.
Who told you that?
Captain, I'd like to help you, but
Oh, I know, Davis. It's not your fault.
Besides, I don't know what you'd find new inside. The lab boys gave the place a good going over, top and bottom.
Did they look around back?
What would they be looking for out there?
That's a good question. Maybe I'll find a good answer.
You big tall feller, ain't you, stranger?
Huh? Are you talking to me?
That clothesline kept you from falling, didn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Hey, you're talking in the wrong direction. I'm over here.
Oh, hi. You must be Mrs. Bell's father.
That's right.
How did you know that I was new around here?
Oh, Murty's told you about me, huh?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean...
Don't bother me none. I've still got mighty good ears. Minute you started back here, I could tell you was a stranger.
How could you tell?
By the way you walked. I said to myself, wait till he hits that bit of broken concrete. They all do. And you did.
That's right.
Say, did you hear about the shooting last night?
Shooting?
Yep. I was sitting right here listening to the radio. Saw the whole thing.
You saw it?
Well, you know what I mean. Mighty good set of ears.
Did you tell anybody?
Nope. Nobody asked me. But I heard these shots, and then about 2 minutes later, I was sitting...
Grandpa, who you talking to?
Here she comes.
Oh, it's you, is it? I thought I told you to leave us alone.
What's he done, Murtis?
He's the man that Mr. Martin told us we couldn't talk to. I'm coming in and close your windows.
I'm sorry, mister. I thought I'd found a friend.
Yeah, so am I, Grandpa. I thought I'd found an alibi. Conrad Martin was a man young in years and young in experience. He didn't intend to lose this case.
Not only did you tell Mr. and Mrs. Bell and everyone else to withhold information, but then you give orders to keep me out of my client's house.
I'm completely within my rights, Matthews.
Your rights? I'd like to know what gives you the right to tell witnesses what to do. They don't belong to you any more than they do to me.
I knew you were going to say that. I'm quite prepared. I think this will give you the answer. In the case of the People versus McCallum, Judge Dean of the Superior Court handed down the following opinion, that...
I'm not interested in Judge Dean's opinion. Now, whether you know it or not, there's a Supreme Court ruling that states that a witness is in the public domain, and as such belongs exclusively to neither the prosecution nor the defense.
Supreme Court?
That's right.
Where did you look that up?
I didn't have to look it up. I learned it in law school. Oh, and another thing, there's a matter of ethics.
I withhold comment.
Do you mind if I ask you a simple question?
That all depends.
What are you trying to prove?
I'm going to win this case.
Even if Hopkins is innocent?
He's guilty, and you know it.
The evidence looks pretty circumstantial, if you ask me.
I didn't ask you.
Then I'm telling you. Now, Conrad, I've seen a lot of eager beavers so anxious to win a conviction that they lose their case.
What do you mean?
I mean that it's your job and mine to see that people like Hopkins get a fair shake.
Was Hopkins fair when he pumped 2 bullets into his wife?
You're taking an awful lot for granted when you haven't even talked to a key witness.
Witness? What witness?
Why don't you wait until we get into court? You'll find out then.
Wait a minute.
What for?
I had a couple of questions.
I thought you had all the answers.
Look, Bart, I've got a tough job to do. The DA's away, and I feel it's my full responsibility to...
To see that Hopkins gets a fair trial?
Well, yes.
All right, then, get your hat. I've got a witness I want you to meet.
Oh, you come back. Murty's ain't gonna like that.
I wouldn't worry about that, Grandpa. It's all been taken care of.
Don't want her coming in here closing the window again. Can't see what's going on. Who's your friend? Never seen him before.
Did you say he was blind? How did he know I was here?
Simple. He saw you.
He ain't as tall a man as you be, Mr. Matthews, and he's heavier set.
That's right, Grandpa. I wonder if you'd tell us what...
Mr. Matthews, if you want me to call the police, I'll...
That won't be necessary, Mrs. Bell.
Oh, Mr. Martin. Well, I was only doing what you told me to.
Grandpa, a while back you started to tell me that you heard something right after the 2 shots.
Just a second. Murty, can I talk now?
You can talk now.
Well, sir, I was sitting right here listening to the news on the radio when I heard the 2 shots. First off, I thought they'd got the announcer. But when he kept talking, I knew it wasn't him.
Go on.
Then, a couple of minutes later, I heard the screen door on Hopkins' back porch open and slam with a bang. And somebody come a-rushing down the back stoop. Oh, he was in an awful hurry. I knew he'd never been around here before because he hadn't gone more than 2 steps when he ran smack dab into the clothes pole.
Did he say anything?
Yep. Said, ouch.
Did you say anything?
Nope. He was off and around back before I could get a word out.
Why didn't you tell this story before?
Nobody asked me but Mr. Matthews, and Murty shut him up.
Are you sure that wasn't Mr. Hopkins who came down those stairs?
Why, of course I'm sure. First place, I know Mr. Hopkins. In the second place, Mr. Hopkins should know that pole was there and duck under it.
Now, where do we go?
Well, I'd call the crime lab.
What for?
Has that pole been checked for fingerprints?
I don't know. Why would they come out here in the first place?
Last night they didn't have a reason. Now they have. When the clothes pole was dusted, Lieutenant Harris found 3 prints. Enough for identification, but not enough for positive proof in court. This meant that when we found the suspect, we'd have to prove his guilt some other way. A run was made through R&I. We learned 3 things. That the prints belonged to a man named Victor Breslow. That he was on parole, which made him easy to find. that he had a long record and a short memory.
I tell you, I was never in that bedroom before, or this living room, or this house, or this neighborhood.
You say you've never seen this woman before, Mr. Breslow.
I've never seen her, no.
How can you explain your fingerprints on that clothes pole in the backyard, then?
I told you. I don't know what you're talking about. Can I go now?
Sit down. Relax, Breslow. Mr. Matthews may be a few minutes yet.
What's he doing?
He's next door talking to the man who saw the killer escape.
Man, what are you trying to give me?
Old fellow in a wheelchair. He says he can identify the man.
Oh, yeah?
You always keep your hat on in the house?
Well, it's cold in here.
You can run him through any time you want. Grandpa's ready.
Well, it's about the same time and about the same amount of light. All right, Breslow, on your feet.
What do you want me to do?
All you have to do is run out the door, down the steps, and into the backyard. Just run down the steps and around to the driveway.
Run. It's dark out there. I might break my neck.
You might save it. Davis, you stay with him. I'll tell you when.
Yes, sir. I think you're nuts.
Make it a good performance, Breslow. It may be your last. You all set, Grandpa?
Never been sitter.
Watch him when he comes out. He may try to make a break.
I'll keep him covered.
All right, Davis. On the double, Breslow.
Just a minute, Breslow. Do you call that running? Now do it again, and this time run.
All right, Davis. Send him out again.
Well, Grandpa?
That's him, all right. Only this time he hit the clothes pole with his hand instead of his head.
You're right, Grandpa.
That's him, all right. Same feller I seen t'other night.
What's he babbling about?
Put the cuffs on him.
What for? I didn't do nothing.
Hold out your hands.
I want you to be sure, Grandpa. Will you swear that this is the same man?
Don't need to swear. I said it's him, and it is.
Well, Breslow?
It was an accident. I didn't want to kill her, honest.
Not when you were doing so well blackmailing.
You find that out, too?
It figured. How long had you been doing it?
Oh, a couple of years. She didn't have any money the other night. I said I'd tell her husband how she'd spent 2 years in the state pen. She pulled a gun on me. I tried to take it away from her. It went off. I wiped the gun clean and ran out the back. That's it.
Yeah. You kind of feel better after getting it off your chest, son?
Well, if it hadn't have been for you, they'd have never pinned it on me.
All right, take him in and book him.
Oh, just a minute. Conrad, I think that confession is good for the soul, don't you?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, before Mr. Breslow departs, don't you think that he ought to know about the man who put the finger on him?
What about him?
Well, take a good look at your accuser. Do you see anything?
Nope.
Neither does he. He's been blind for the last 20 years.
Blind? Why, you dirty, you trapped me.
No, you trapped yourself.
Want to thank you for your help, Grandpa.
Glad to help you. Sort of broke the monotony.
Nice old guy.
Sure is.
Bart, I'd like to thank you, too.
Well, what for?
Oh, for helping an eager beaver see a couple of things. But I hope you didn't let yourself in for something.
I don't understand.
Supposing Breslow was broke.
So?
So if he can't afford an attorney, you'll have to defend him.
Take care of yourself, Mr. Matthews. And drop by again sometime.
Yeah, thanks, Grandpa. I will. When Victor Breslow was brought to trial, he was found guilty. But since the shooting was not premeditated, the charge was changed to manslaughter. He is now serving a sentence in the state penitentiary. The case you have just seen was brought to a fair and just conclusion through the efforts of a public defender. public defender is an attorney employed by the community and responsible for giving legal aid without cost to any person who seeks it and is financially unable to employ private counsel. It is his duty to defend those accused of crime until the issue is decided in a court of law. The first public defender's office in the United States was opened in January 1913. Over the years, other offices were opened, and today that handful has grown to a network of lawyers cooperating to protect the rights of our clients. Tonight's case concerns one of the most frightening problems we face today. As you watch, remember one thing, that the answer lies with you, and only with you. Rhode Island, 800,000 people, 1,200 square miles. The smallest state in the Union, but not too small for this.
All right, Adams. Why?
I don't know, sir.
I don't know is an answer I'm getting too often these days. Do you consider that a proper answer to why you have been absent 5 days so far this month with no excuse?
I guess so.
Do you consider that an intelligent explanation? Your school record will follow you through the rest of your life. You know that. Arrested 6 months ago. Misdemeanor. Probation granted. Doesn't seem to have done much good, does it? What are you trying to prove? Who are you trying to hurt, Peter?
Nobody, sir.
Is that all you've got to say?
Guess so.
You don't leave me any alternative, Adams. You are suspended from this school. I want to see your father and mother as soon as possible. Tell them that. That's all. Miss Riker, get me Mr. Matthews at the public defender's office, please.
Suspended? What is it with that kid? How does he have to do things like this to me? It's hard enough to make a living. I gotta have this, too?
Mr. Adams.
Look, Mr. Matthews, I'm sorry. I appreciate you defended him before. Got him off on probation. But I don't understand it. I'm not a bum, not a criminal. I'm an honest man. I work for a living. I go to church. I'm secretary of the lodge. How can a son of mine do things like this?
That's not exactly a new question.
A beating, is that what he needs? All his life, I never laid a hand on him. Maybe that's where I made a mistake.
I don't think that's the answer.
You got an answer? I'd be glad to hear it.
Well, do you spend much time with the boy? Have you tried talking to him to find out what's bothering him?
I tried like you told me 6 months ago. Took him to ball games, bowling, tried to get close to him. Does it look to you like it helped?
I see. Well, I'm sorry to have bothered you at work, Mr. Adams, but Pete wasn't at home, and it's important that I see him. This suspension has become a violation of probation.
I don't even know where to tell you to look.
I'll take a look in that shack over on Charles. Pete wouldn't be the first boy who's used it for a hangout.
Kids. Go figure 'em. Knock your brains out to give them a nice home. They'd rather hang out in some shack.
Maybe there's a reason, Mr. Adams.
What?
Maybe they find something there they don't get at home.
What's the federal case? You gonna call or ain't you?
Well, let me think.
Start thinking we'll never get finished.
You boys seen Pete Adams?
Who wants to know, mister?
My name's Matthews.
Well, good for you.
I ask about Pete Adams.
He ain't here.
I can see that. I asked you if you had seen him.
No.
You boys going into business? got anything in mind, you better not miss your first try.
You got me all wrong, mister.
Tell Pete Adams to get in touch with me as soon as you see him. Isn't your name Vince Fulton?
You heard of me, huh?
Yeah. I thought you were still doing time at Howard.
I got 6 months off for good behavior. And I'm reporting to my parole officer regular. What's happened to this place since I've been away? Anybody can walk in here.
Oh, gee, Vince, it ain't our fault.
Why don't you talk to Pete?
Talk to me about what?
We don't like the company you got looking for you. Like that Matthews. What are you doing, giving out passes?
Oh, wait a minute, that's not my fault.
Who are you gonna bring next, the cops?
Well, look, if that's the way you feel, there are other fellas to hang out with.
Pete, wait a minute. Al? Got a big mouth for a kid, Al.
Fellas!
All right. Everybody through griping?
I only meant it.
I said you got a big mouth. Now, listen to me. Let's concentrate on doing ourselves some good instead of all this griping off.
Sure, Vince, you're the boss.
That's right. None of you knotheads ever heard of the Star Depot?
You mean that trucking place?
Yeah, only it ain't a trucking place, it's a depot. A place where trucks come down from Maine and stay overnight so the drivers can sleep.
What about it?
Do I have to draw you a map? I said the trucks stay there all night. Now, we shouldn't let those poor loaded trucks stay there doing nobody no good.
Oh, you're so right.
What are the trucks carrying, Vince?
Merchandise, canned good, cases of it.
You mean heist them?
Who'll miss a few?
Now, wait a minute, fellas. I don't think...
You don't think what, Buster?
Nothing.
That's better. Now, where was I?
Oh, we were just stealing the vegetables. Then what do we do with them?
We fence them. So what's wrong with that? Somebody gets a good deal, we make a few bucks, and nobody gets hurt. Simple, huh?
Yeah, but how do we get in the depot? There's a big wire fence around it.
Do I have to do all of your thinking for you? We boost one of us over the fence. Pete, he's the smallest. Unless you're Chicken Pete.
You ain't saying anything, Pete.
Are you Chicken Pete?
No. No, I ain't. I ain't chicken.
Cream?
Please.
Sugar?
No, thanks. Now, to get back to your boy, Mrs. Adams, it's important that I talk to him.
I don't understand Pete doing these things, Mr. Matthews. I just don't understand any of it.
Now, you say he hasn't been home all evening.
He's never done anything like this before. Never stayed out past dinner. I'm worried sick. I was just going out to look for him.
You were going out? Well, what about his father?
Oh, he had an important lodge meeting tonight. You see, he's secretary. Oh, I know what you're thinking, Mr. Matthews, but it isn't like that. The lodge is important to him, and he works hard all day, and he's entitled to a little thing like that.
Yes, of course. Now, about this thing between Pete and his father, this feeling. I wonder if you could tell me something about it, something that would help to explain.
I don't know, Mr. Matthews. I really don't know how it gets started. They both try, but something always seems to happen. Like the thing that happened one night last week. Pete was working on a ship model. His father was going to his lodge, and he'd just gone into the kitchen to get a drink of water.
No wonder you're having troubles. You got it in wrong. You shoved the spar in too tight. That's what makes it bend. But you're rigging out of line.
Oh.
What's the matter with you, Pete? You should have been able to see that.
All right, Pop.
I worked on models when I was a kid. I made mistakes, but none as simple as that. What you should have
All right,
done
so I'm simple. Everybody can't be as good as you.
Don't use that tone to me.
Where you going?
Out.
You're always going out.
Yeah. I wonder why.
What did I say this time? I was only trying to help.
Well, that's always the way it turns out. It drives me crazy. I just can't understand it. Two of them, fighting all the time. And Pete'll just go out, disappear.
I see.
Now the thing with the school. Pete isn't the kind of a boy to be put out of school.
Well, Pete is my responsibility as far as the juvenile court is concerned. It's important that I talk to him as soon as possible. Would you tell him that when he comes in?
Well, of course. But, Mr. Matthews, I'm sure of one thing. I know my son. I know he'd never do anything he'd have to be ashamed of. Never.
Pushover. Just like taking candy. Now work quiet like I told you. Come on, Pete, I'll give you a boost up. Well, you can make it easy. What are you waiting on?
That watchman, are you sure he can't hear us?
I told you he's down at the other end making his rounds. Now come on, get up there.
Who's that? What you doing with that
Hey,
pen?
Vince, what do we do? Run? What do you think? Get on!
You guys help me down!
Get on yourself, you yellow punk. What do you want me to do, carry you?
Hold it. You over there. I see you.
Makes nice reading, huh? Young hoodlums attempt truck depot hijack. Watchman says boys were school age. Sure helps what we're trying to do here in juvenile.
Well, they're printing the facts, John.
Facts. The boys think they're big heads. We're made to look like we're not doing our job. That phone hasn't stopped ringing all day. Everybody indignant and each with a solution. Why don't they print the real facts?
The world is filled with Monday morning quarterbacks.
They get together on one thing, though. Their kids never do anything like this. It's always somebody else's kids.
Yeah, I know.
You've defended 4 or 5 from that area. You got one who's in a little probation trouble right now, haven't you? What's his name? Well, you bet. Lieutenant Roswell, juvenile. Yes, lady, I understand. You're right, it's a Yes, madam, we're all taxpayers. This may go on for hours. Look, Bart, what'd you say that boy's name was?
Peter Adams.
Have you talked to him?
Well, he's pretty elusive.
Friendly suggestion. You better find out if he's mixed up in this thing. And do it as quick as you can.
All right.
Yes, I understand, lady. Certainly.
You read this yet?
I read it.
Ever seen anything like this in your life? What's happening to kids today? What do they want?
Has anybody ever bothered to ask them?
What?
Nothing.
Oh, speaking of kids, what time did Mr. Stayout get home last night?
What time did you get home?
So the meeting ran a little late. I'm not 16 years old.
Ed.
I looked in his room when I came in. He was asleep or pretending to be. We're going to have a few words, that grown-up son of mine and me. We're going to get a few things straight, believe me.
Ed, please. Don't argue with him. Don't yell at him. Just talk to him. You're his father.
I'll talk, all right.
That tone of voice, that look on your face, you're so impatient.
And there's nothing to be impatient about. Is that what you're trying to say? Oh, what's the matter with you, Ruth? The public defender gets him off once. He turns right around and gets in more trouble. Explain it to me. Go ahead, I want to hear it.
Ed, please.
You know what the next step is? This. Something like this.
Oh, you're out of your mind.
All right. I know what you're going to say. That's for bums and hoodlums and not for boys like Pete. Well, I'm going to make sure it never gets that far. Well, the night owl. Where you going, Pete? To school? You like it so much you go on Saturdays these days? Well, I ask you a question.
I'm going out.
I'm going out. Just like that, huh? Sit down.
Eat some breakfast, Pete.
I'm not hungry.
And you're not very smart either. Or maybe you are. Maybe you're smart in school. Tell me about school, Pete. Especially about the last couple of weeks.
Ed.
Never mind, he's big enough to talk for himself now. Big enough to stay out of school. Well?
I wanted to tell you about it.
Only you didn't. Things like that I got to hear from Mr. Matthews, huh? Nice.
Pop, listen.
To what? A bunch of excuses? What are you trying to do to us? Take a look. Is this what you're heading for? Is this what's next? Hey, what's this? What happened to your jacket?
Oh, it's nothing. It's nothing.
Let me see that.
Ed, what is it?
I tell you, it's nothing. I tore it. I tore it playing.
Playing? Playing where? On a fence? You're the one they're looking for. You did it.
No, Pop, no.
It's all right here in the papers. Look at me, look at me.
It wasn't me. I wasn't there.
Why do you lie to me? Why do you lie?
Ed, stop it. Are you crazy? Stop it.
That's what I raised. That. A thief.
Ed, don't say a thing like that.
Why? Just tell me why. Name me one meal he ever went without. One thing he ever wanted that I never gave him. Just name me one thing.
That's what you say. You never gave a hoot about me till I got into trouble. If you ever talked to me, you made me feel like a nobody. Always you were a genius trying to get something through my thick head. Every time you talk to me, you make me feel like I'm nothing. And you never let up, do you? Last month we went to a ball game. So what? You gotta make everything a lesson. Point out how good this guy is and that guy is and how good you were and why I ain't that good. Every time, every time. Everything you ever did had a hook on it. And I was the poor sucker on the end.
Come back here.
What for? You wouldn't even like the way I did that.
Oh, what? Nothing in this world works every time out. Little trouble's good for you. Make a man out of you. So we blew a chance to make a few bucks. Nobody got caught, did they? And we learned something.
Yeah, I learned something.
What do you mean by that, crack?
I mean, you're not as smart as you think you are. You cased the joint.
You said the watchman was down at the other end. You think you can handle both of us?
Yeah, with one hand. Now sit down. This is stupid. This kind of yak ain't getting us no loot.
Well, look who walked in. The fence climber.
You shut your mouth. Come on in, Pete. Now listen, I don't want you guys needling each other. I'm the boss around here. You dig that?
Sure, Vince, sure.
All right. Now, what's the smartest thing we can do right now?
What do you mean?
Come on, stay with me. We blew this last one. Where do we hit next?
The other end of town.
You got any ideas, Al? That's what I thought. We go right back to the same place.
So soon after...
That's the way a smart operator works, punk. Besides, who'd be expecting us to come back there so soon? Don't you see?
How, Vince? How do we do it?
It's a cinch. The same way as before. That night watchman won't expect us so soon. Well, let me hear from you.
I'm in.
I'm in, too.
How about you, Pete? You gonna climb that fence again?
Why not? What have I got to lose now?
The look on his face as he stood there saying it. He meant it. Every word of it.
I'm quite sure he did, Mr. Adams.
But why? What did I do that's so terrible?
Please, it won't help to get excited all over again.
But what did I do? All those things he said, that was a kid talking.
That kid is your son, Ed. He's got feelings just like everyone else.
What am I supposed to do? Watch every word, every look?
You do it when you deal with adults. Kids are more sensitive.
My son, doing things like that.
Nobody does things like that without a reason, Mr. Adams.
Did I give him a reason, Mr. Matthews?
The important thing is, he thinks you did.
You're exhausted, Ed. You haven't had any dinner. Please eat something, please.
There isn't too much time, Mrs. Adams. We've got to find Pete. The police are out looking for those boys now. Pete's in serious trouble.
Did I put him in that trouble?
Tell me, I've got to know.
Well, I can only tell you this, Mr. Adams, and it's pretty elementary. Anyone who works with kids knows it, but you'd be surprised how many parents never learn it. Now, the biggest single reason for juvenile delinquency, do you know what it is? A kid feeling he's not loved by his parents. Feeling that he doesn't matter to his parents one way or the other. Now, like all of us, he's got to matter to someone. He's got to have approval. And if he doesn't find it at home, he'll go somewhere else for it. Anywhere. And if he finds it by being tough and criminal, he settles for that. He grabs at it to fill the need that wasn't filled at home. Let's go find Pete, Mr. Adams.
There's a lamp.
Good.
Get your hands up. Oh, it's you, Mr. Matthews.
What are you trying to do? Scare people to death?
Are you kidding? Those kids have really got Lieutenant Roswell burning. He's got every cop in town out tonight. I just hope they're covering the right places.
What makes them so sure tonight's the night?
How bright does he have to be? They've hit for the last 6 Saturdays.
Roswell's on it himself, huh?
Yeah.
Where?
The truck depot. Roswell's a pretty smart cop. He figures the action to repeat there.
Well, thanks, Fred. We'll be running along.
Stick around a while. It's a lonely beat.
You don't know how lonely, Fred.
Come on, give me the tire iron. Oh, this'll be a cinch.
Think so? Get your hands up, quick, all of you. Drop that tire iron. All right, against the wall and face it. Come on, move. Hands against the wall. Take them.
We ain't got no guns.
No, but you get in trouble, kid. You get lots of trouble. Don't try it. You got your client back, Bart. Only this time he won't get probation.
All 4 boys were held on counts of malicious mischief and attempted robbery. They are awaiting their hearing at this moment. Ladies and gentlemen, the case you have just seen is true. One small facet of a huge problem. We offer no solution, for a problem of this size cannot be solved with hard and fast rules. But one thing we do know, one basic fact that must be the keystone of the solution. There is no substitute for love and affection. Peter Adams' parents learned this the hard way. How many others have yet to learn this same lesson? The case you have just seen was brought to a fair and just conclusion through the efforts of a public defender. public defender is an attorney employed by the community and responsible for giving legal aid without cost to any person who seeks it and is financially unable to employ private counsel. It is his duty to defend those accused of crime until the issue is decided in a court of law. The first public defender's office in the United States was opened in January 1913. Over the years, other offices were opened, and today that handful has grown to a network of lawyers cooperating to protect the rights of our clients. Some of our cases are easy to wrap up. Investigation gives us a clear-cut answer. I thought this case was one of those. You'll see how wrong I was. In the course of his daily work, the public defender often finds himself in strange and unexpected places. This particular case took me to a roaring steel mill, where men work hard under great pressure. Here we meet all kinds. The hard worker, the sensitive guy, the bully. All with the same passions and conflicting desires that we find everywhere else. But here the struggle is more intense. This is a naked and physical world. Strong men will not be poured into a mold like molten metal. And as if the work and the heat have a direct effect upon them, their emotions sometimes explode suddenly, violently.
Hiya, Bill. Lay off, musclehead. That burns me up. Can't take it, huh?
He did it! Did you see him? He tried to kill me! He did it!
I didn't release that high lift, Mr. Matthews.
That isn't what Pete Corey told the police. He said he saw you near it seconds before it happened.
He's wrong. He's wrong. I wasn't near it.
Now, the charge is attempted murder, Eddie. You're in a tough spot.
I know. But I had nothing to do with Pete getting hurt.
He said that you two had an argument the same day.
That didn't amount to much.
What was it about?
He was picking on me, and I didn't like it.
He said you had a fist fight in the yard.
It was just a couple of punches.
How tall are you, Eddie?
I'm 5'7".
What do you weigh, about 140?
143. Why?
Well, Pete Corey is over 6 feet. Must weigh about 200 pounds. Couldn't have been much of a fight, a David and a Goliath.
I wasn't afraid of him.
Neither was David, but he had a pretty important reason for fighting. Now, what was your reason, Eddie?
He was picking on me, that's all.
I'm your attorney, Eddie. I'll have to have more than that to go on. Now, the police say that you were beaten up by Corey, that you wanted to get even, and you tried to kill him.
Well, it's not true. I didn't have anything to do with it. You know, having a fight with a guy is one thing, but trying to kill him is something else. I tell you, it was an accident that lift hitting him.
All right, Eddie. I'll see what I can do. I liked Eddie. He seemed like a nice kid. But he didn't give me much to work with. I had to get corroborative testimony. Joe Harris? Yeah. I'm Matthews, public defender's office.
Oh, you're the guy that's Eddie Fraser's lawyer.
That's right, Joe. I'd like to ask you a few questions. Did Eddie ever get into any trouble before?
Not that I know of. Everybody likes Eddie. He's a good guy.
And what about Pete Corey?
He's a jerk.
Why?
A muscle boy himself, always pushing people around, a plain jerk. Eddie had nothing to do with releasing that lift.
How can you be so sure?
I saw the whole thing. Pete was walking down the ramp there, and the lift was parked at the head of the ramp. Somehow it started to roll down. And Eddie was standing, about here, a good 10 feet away.
Well, could he possibly have gotten over to the lift and released it?
Well, it's impossible. He was standing here the whole time.
And you'll swear to that?
Why not? It's the truth. That's Brody. He's running the lift now like he was then.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks very much. Now, if Eddie couldn't have released the lift and you didn't, how do you account for the fact it rolled down the ramp?
Well, something must have happened.
The mechanics checked it, and it was in perfect working order.
The mechanics. 100 things could have gone wrong. How can they say what could have happened? I'm telling you, the whole thing was just an accident.
Did it ever happen before?
No, but that don't mean it won't happen again. Believe me, mister, guys used to walk in front of that lift all the time. They don't anymore.
Well, thanks for your cooperation.
Oh, Mr. Matthews, get Eddie off soon, will you? The guys around here want him to show up for his wedding.
I didn't know he was going to be married.
Jane Bronson up in the accounting office, swell girl. We arranged a party for them on the 15th.
Well, I'll do the best I can.
Thanks.
I understand the boys are giving you a big party.
They've been awfully sweet about everything. Everybody likes Eddie.
They're pretty fond of you, too. Tell me, Miss Bronson, do you know Pete Corey?
Yes, I do.
How well do you know him?
Nothing serious, just a couple of dates.
Do you think their fight in the yard had anything to do with you?
I don't know, Mr. Matthews. I don't know. Pete was possessive, domineering. That's why we broke up. They might have fought. Pete was just that way. He tried to settle everything with his fists.
And what about Eddie Fraser?
Eddie's not that type of a man. He's warm, understanding. I love him.
In the interest of justice, I discussed the case with the district attorney a couple of days later. I believe that the statements of the witnesses for Eddie Fraser were conclusive. And after studying the file, he agreed that there was a lack of evidence of criminal intent. The case against Eddie Fraser was dismissed. Hello, Eddie. I didn't think I'd see you around here anymore.
Just wanted to thank you for everything you've done for me.
Oh, you're welcome, Eddie. You know, our clients aren't usually this appreciative. They leave here as fast as they can and never look back. Lots of luck, Eddie.
Thanks.
Well, relax. You're free. The boys at the plant will be glad to see you, and so will Jane.
Yeah, I know. I know. Those guys are real friends. Jane is wonderful.
Oh, she's a lovely girl, Eddie. And I know you two will be very happy. I'm invited to the wedding, you know, and it'll have to be something awfully important to keep me away.
Well, it wouldn't be right if you went there.
Well, so long, Eddie. I'll see you, huh? Yes? Oh, the petitions are being filled out now. They should be ready this afternoon. Yeah, fine. Goodbye.
Mr. Matthews?
Oh, I thought you had gone, Eddie.
I can't go back. I can't.
What's the matter, Eddie?
It isn't right for my friends to act as judge and jury. I can't let them.
What are you trying to say, Eddie?
I released the brake on that lift. I tried to kill Pete Corey.
Do you realize what you're saying?
I've been sitting in jail thinking about it. Knowing my friends were trying to protect me. I couldn't sleep. You see, they were trying to save me, Mr. Matthews. They thought he deserved it, but it's not right for them to act as judge and jury. Well, how could I go back? You see, they all knew except Jane. How could I marry her with this on my conscience? Boy, a guy's got to live with his conscience.
Sit down, Eddie. Do you realize what you've done? Through your statements, you and your friends have perpetrated a fraud on the court.
I know. I know. I shouldn't have let them. I should have told you the truth. I want to face a judge. I want to tell him that I'm guilty. I want to pay for what I've done.
Well, the courts can always refile in a case like this. Suppose you tell me what really happened, Eddie.
Well, promise me that they won't get hurt. You see, they lied because they liked me. They wanted to help me. Promise me that they won't get into any trouble.
I'll do what I can. Now, tell me what happened.
Well, it all started when went to work at the plant.
Eddie was ambitious. He wanted to learn everything there was to know. When he started at the plant, he was in the clerical department, but got interested in steel and went to night school and took up some courses. He learned about reverberatory furnaces, the rolling mills, the various types of steel, and his studies paid off. Eddie became a tester. It was he who examined the metal before shipment. It was a responsible position.
Hold it, Eddie. I'll give you a hand.
Thanks, Joe.
What's the matter, boys? Having trouble?
We don't need you, muscle boy. If we can't do it, we got a lift that can.
You don't need lifts with me around. You know, I don't know how you guys get along without me.
You know, a lift can do anything you can do without bragging. You're a jerk. Take it easy, Pete.
Guy's asking for it.
Oh, it's not worth fighting about. Forget it.
Sure. He's got too much lip. Need anything else?
No, I'm okay.
You know, for a little guy, you're all right, Eddie.
Thanks.
Say, I got an idea. You know Jane. She's got a girlfriend looking for a date. How about you, huh? We'll make it a foursome tomorrow night.
No,
Well, nothing. I'll let you know.
Pete's offer for friendship came as a surprise to Eddie. Pete was a lone wolf given to bragging. He was disliked by most of the people who worked in the plant.
You got a date for tomorrow night, kid. I told Jane to pick somebody your size.
Okay, I'll take a chance.
You ain't taking any chances when Jane picks him. If yours is half as cute as Jane, you got a doll.
Good.
Hey, fellas, Musclehead's got a girl. Since when are you interested in anybody beside yourself?
I got news for you guys. I'm not only interested, I'm gonna marry you. See you later, Eddie.
I pity Jane. She's a good kid.
Ah, Pete's not so bad.
You'll learn.
How do you like it, Jane?
The music might not be good, but it's loud.
I like it, Pete. They're just a couple of old squares.
Yeah? Yeah, I guess I am. My dancing's pretty rusty.
You may not be very fancy, but reliable. Eddie, haven't I seen you at night school?
Yeah? Yeah, I go 4 nights a week. I've seen you there, too. What are you taking?
Literature.
Mr. Williams?
You know him.
Yeah, I had him for English last year. He's all right.
Gee, you must be strong. Your muscles are like a rock.
What are you studying now?
Chemistry, mostly.
You should have been a fighter.
Yeah, sure.
What kind of chemistry?
Well, it's the composition of steel alloys. It's complicated stuff, those chemical equations.
That's how I feel about Shakespeare. I can't figure him out either.
Hey, look, we're supposed to be having fun, huh? You two will be doing your homework next. Come on, let's dance. Come on. You and Eddie are getting along real good.
He's awfully nice, Pete.
Don't like him too much, baby. Hey, watch where you're going, wise guy.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you.
That's what you got eyes for, mister. I'd to pin your ears back.
Well, you don't have to get so tough about it.
Who's gonna stop me? You?
Pete, please, there's no need to fight about it.
Oh, well, this guy thinks he's tough. Maybe I ought to teach him a thing or two.
Pete, don't, not again.
You're a smart guy, aren't you?
You haven't danced with me yet, Pete.
Where'd Jane go?
She'll be back. Come on, this is my favorite song.
I'm sorry that happened.
It seems to be happening to Pete more and more. He's becoming... You know what I mean.
Well, Pete's not a bad guy. He's got that quick temper.
Too quick. You're different. You're not like fellas like Pete.
Well, I'm trying to be different. I don't want to be a tester all my life. I want to be sort of an important guy someday.
And you will be.
Thank you. You know, you're different, too. In fact, you're kind of special. It's pretty out there, isn't it? Those lights.
It's beautiful.
You know, sometimes you see things, lots of things, but you don't really see them. And all of a sudden, you see it for the first time, and it's really wonderful.
Yes. It is. Isn't it?
Hey. What'd you run away for? What have you two been talking about?
We were just, looking out there at those lights.
They're so pretty.
What's so pretty? They're just lights. We've seen them before. Look, I'm hungry and the grub's on the table. Let's eat, huh?
Eddie fell in love with Jane that night. He knew nothing could come of it. Jane was Pete's girl. Pete was going to marry her.
Hi, Pete.
I thought you two were up to something last night out on the balcony. And that gag about the pretty lights.
What are you talking about?
Look, lay off, kid. I'm warning you.
Quit it, Pete.
Jane's mine, see, and you're not cutting in, understand? Keep away from her.
Eddie, come in.
Just want to see you for a minute.
What is it, Eddie?
It's about Pete.
What about him?
He has the idea. Well, I like you, Jane. But Pete says that it's more than that. He says that you and I, well, that it's more than that.
I told him this morning that I didn't want to see him again. Pete was right in one way. It took you to make me realize that it wouldn't work.
Me?
You said it the other night, Eddie. You see things many times without really seeing them. But I refused to see him the way he really was until I met you.
Jane.
I like you, Eddie. I'm more than like you.
Jane, I want you to know how I feel.
We got some things to talk about.
There's nothing to talk about, Pete.
Oh, yeah? Him again. Get out of here, punk.
You better go, Eddie. Call me tomorrow.
I told him this morning and I meant it. He's not going to crawl around here anymore. You're my girl and I'm going to marry you.
You're hurting me.
Everything was fine around here until that guy came in. They'll be fine again.
Pete, it was all in your mind about marriage. I never considered it seriously. I tried to explain that to you.
We're going to be married.
No.
Oh, you can't be interested in that little squirt. He isn't even a man.
Muscles don't make the man, Pete. Eddie's a fine person.
It'll never be him. I won't let you. He's a nothing, you understand?
Please.
If you ever see him again, I'll tear him apart. Remember that. I'll kill him.
For the next week, Eddie tried to see Jane. Jane avoided him. She said she was busy. She was working overtime. Jane's excuses were endless, and Eddie couldn't understand it.
Jane.
Eddie. I've got to go in.
Jane, I want to know why you won't see me.
I've been busy.
Busy doing what?
I'd rather not talk about it.
Jane, we both know it. We love each other.
Oh, Eddie.
Honey. Honey, Tell me, what's the matter?
Oh, Eddie, let's go away. There are other places to work.
Why? I've got a good job. I've got a future here.
I want us to be together. I want us to get married. Pete said he'd kill you if I ever saw you again. If we went away, he wouldn't know. He'd let us alone.
No, I'm not afraid of Pete. Look, he's got to understand that we love each other. I'm going to see him and tell him.
Eddie, I'm afraid. I'm afraid of what he'll do to you.
Look, we can't start out together by being afraid. We've got each other. What do we have to be afraid of? I'm going to settle it all tomorrow.
Eddie didn't pay much attention to his work that morning. He had to talk to Pete. He wanted to get it over with.
I was wondering why Jane wouldn't see me. I found out last night.
Thought I told you to stay away.
Your threats don't scare me. You're not keeping us apart, you understand?
Look, be a smart guy, kid. If you want to live, leave her alone.
You can't settle this with your fist, Pete. We love each other, and Jane doesn't want you around. Okay, muscle man, I'm not afraid.
You're asking for it, little man.
Break it, fellas. Oh, no, man. Between us.
Yeah, between us. Come on.
Take it easy, Pete. You'll kill him.
I'll just mess him up a little. All right, you had it, kid. Quit. You see Jane again, and I'll really give it to you.
Jane and I loved each other, Mr. Matthews. We couldn't start our life together by running away. Every time I saw Peter, it pretty near drove me crazy. Then that day, all of a sudden, I felt I had to do something. I was crazy, Mr. Matthews. I'm sorry I did it. I'm sorry I hurt him now. I want to pay for what I did.
Eddie Fraser pled guilty to aggravated assault. But because of his confession and the other extenuating circumstances, the court was lenient. He received probation and was sent to the county jail for 6 months. He's back working now. And it was Pete Corey who had to leave town. I think Eddie's and Jane's wedding was the best I ever went to. The case you have just seen was brought to a fair and just conclusion through the efforts of a public defender.